All right, so we're here on Friday, June 19th, and tomorrow, I believe, will be almost exactly a month.
Month since what?
Since our powerlifting meet.
Yeah.
And I promised everybody that we'd do a little reflection or like lessons learned, and I thought like a little podcast format would be fun just because we did this together, and I thought it would be interesting to have it be more of a conversation rather than just me typing a bunch of random stuff and putting it in a Facebook post. So we are here. I guess now that it's a month out, we can do some really good reflecting, but probably biggest question to just address up front is like what exactly a powerlifting meet is. So, Eric, would you like to explain?
Yeah, so powerlifting is a sport where you do 3 lifts. You do a barbell back squat, you do a barbell bench press, and you do a barbell deadlift. And what you're trying to do, you get 3 attempts at each lift, and you're trying to get your highest 1 rep max within those 3 attempts as possible. And then at the end, your highest attempt out of each 3 is tallied up to your total, is what they call it. And so I guess just going through the specifics of each lift, the barbell back squat, you just have to break parallel, which what that means is in the rule book, the crease of your hip needs to go below the top of your knee. So it's pretty straightforward. And then bench press, it's a paused bench press, so you bring it down and you wait for them to tell you to press, and then you press and you rack. And then the deadlift, you can do a sumo deadlift or a conventional deadlift. You just can't use wrist wraps or straps or anything like that. And those are just the general rules.
Yeah. So I think just kind of circling back on each of those very briefly, with the back squat, oftentimes like for general fitness, we usually want to our main goal is like to at least get to parallel. So that would be where the thigh is parallel to the ground. But for a powerlifting meet, you are required to go below parallel. As Eric said, the crease of the hip has to actually sit beneath the knees. So it requires quite a bit of range of motion from that standpoint. And then, you mentioned the 2 different types of deadlift options. So you actually get a choice. If you prefer a sumo deadlift, you can do that. Or if you prefer a conventional deadlift, which would be more similar to like a trap bar deadlift, just with your regular straight barbell, then you can choose that as well. It's just based on really personal preference and strategically like which of the 2 options you feel like you can lift the heaviest. So yeah, those are the basics of what the meet is and what it actually entails. I meant to look this up before we did this, but I forgot. I actually don't know why they call it powerlifting, because there's not really any power involved. Power would be moving something heavy quickly. And actually there were many times where people were not moving anything fast at all. Yeah. So I don't know why it's called powerlifting. It should just be called, I don't know, a strength test, essentially, because that's really what it is. It's a measurement of your maximum strength. You know why they call it powerlifting?
Actually, I don't know why they call it.
I meant to look it up, and anyway,
cool
maybe
name.
I'll circle back.
Yeah.
So that's the basics of what the meet looks like, what it entails. I guess the next big question that we were pivoting off of each other was like, why did we decide to do this?
Yeah.
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so I've done a powerlifting meet once before. That was 12 years ago in 2014. And at the time, I just, lifted weights like any, bro would, I guess you could say, in high school.
Like a 20-something male gym goer.
Yeah, just going to the gym and doing whatever your buddies say is good. And that wasn't super effective. And so I wanted to see, where I could take it with actually doing a program that had, some kind of logic to it and some goal, and also having a period of time. So that one was 10 weeks, and just see like, okay, if I really put my mind to something, how far can I take it? And powerlifting just seemed really, at the time I was looking at a lot of different things. What I liked about powerlifting was, unlike Olympic lifting or some of the CrossFit stuff, there's a lot of technique to the movements, but it's fairly accessible, because, squatting, benching, deadlifting are all, fairly
functional, foundational movement patterns.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I had a great time doing that, and that kind of informed how I kept training after that. And then last year, Lindsay said she would be interested in doing that, and so, I was all in. But it's a great way to put your mind to something and test yourself in an environment where everyone's there to do the same thing, and it's as safe as it's going to be to do any kind of extreme lifting, because they have spotters there and there's a format to it. And so if you are going to push yourself, you can do it by yourself in your garage or at the gym, but there's always a risk to that. And so not getting buried under what you thought was your max in a squat or a bench. It's kind of it's nice to have spotters and a whole format to it. So
Yeah, there's some structure.
yeah. So why did you want to do it?
That's a good question. One, I thought it would be a unique challenge. We've done some pretty extreme, I guess I'll say extreme, on the extreme side of the spectrum, like physical challenges in terms of like hiking and outdoor stuff. I trained for a half marathon, so I've done something kind of on the endurance side of the spectrum, but I've never actually seen like how far I could take my strength. And so I wanted to just go all in and just focus on that and have that be my focus for a period of time, and just see how strong I guess I could get. And that's something that I always push you guys all to do, right? Is to kind of push and keep going. So I wanted to sort of force myself to go through that as well. And then also just the whole experience of like being in front of a crowd and that performative aspect of it, and being in a high pressure situation, and putting yourself through that, which is a challenge in and of itself, at least for me. That's completely outside of my comfort zone. I wanted to go through that as well. So, because I find a lot of value in those types of experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's definitely something different.
It was very different. Yeah, literally everyone's watching you, and you're like, I better not look like an idiot right now. So yeah.
So how did the training differ from what you're used to?
You know this. Very different. I've always been kind of more, I hate to use the word functional, so I like to use the word like well-rounded. That's how I was like taught when I started going through my personal training certification. There's not, I mean, I guess you could probably specialize in like powerlifting. That's not exactly like how they train you. You're not going to train everyone to be great at coaching powerlifting. So yeah, it's always been very well-rounded, and I think that's a good thing. But when you're trying to, fill all the holes, you don't necessarily have the capacity or the bandwidth to just focus on absolute strength. So I had to forego some of that well-roundedness, some of the other sort of supplementary things that I was focusing on, and like just zone in on strength, which was the point of the whole process. But that was very different for me. And also just the amount of volume, the amount of exposure you're getting to each of these 3 exercises is substantially more than I was doing on my own. So that was very different.
Yeah.
And I feel like you had the kind of the well, I don't want to say the opposite experience, but you've kind of had like you talked about your first powerlifting meet, and you were very much kind of, that's how you trained, and that was your exposure to training, or your entryway into resistance training. And then, I don't know, probably a couple years ago, like once we started training together, that looked a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I'll let you talk about that.
Definitely. Well, so yeah, training for a powerlifting meet was the first time I ever had a program. You know, before that, I was just going to the gym, doing whatever my buddies did, which had no method to it at all. So the powerlifting program that I found at the time, it was extremely hyper specific to powerlifting. So the only things that it had you do were squat, bench, deadlift, and variations of squat, bench, and deadlift. And so it was, you know, those 3 movements, really nothing else. I mean, there was a, you know, general physical preparedness day, which was more like mobility and stuff like that. And so once I had done that meet, for the next like 10 years, I kind of just did that same thing.
That was like what you knew, so that's
Yeah.
what you did. And
Yeah.
it was very effective, probably, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, what was cool about it was, you know, being new to lifting, like with any kind of method to it, you know, I made a lot of gains in that 10 weeks, and then I was able to take it a little further than that. But over that, the next 10 years, doing a very similar thing over and over and over again with the ebbs and flows of life, you know, I tended to have the same plateau areas in each lift over and over and over again. And so, you know, I'd have the same sticking points, the same problems with like in the squat, backgrounding over, in the bench, just not being able to bench, or in the deadlift, you know, again, backgrounding over and everything. And so when I started training with Lindsay, it was very different because, you know, instead of having just all heavy barbell movements where it's all like all out all the time, there were things like, oh, single leg squat. Well, I can't do one of those.
With body weight.
Yeah, with body weight. I'm super frustrated. You know? She'd give me a new program and I'd be like, oh, this is BS, I hate this. And then,
Yeah,
you know,
there were many, we had like little tiffs here and there
Yeah.
where you would get upset because you'd be like, I don't understand what this is.
Yeah.
I have to show it to you like several times.
Yeah.
You get pretty frustrated.
Yeah, or it would just be something where, you know, it didn't feel good, you know, to start because it's just a muscle that I've never used in my life. And so, you know, it's having spent the past 2 or 3 years or whatever it's been doing the circuit training, I don't know what you'd want to call it, but it's
Circuit training.
yeah, circuit training. It's a lot, you know, it's a lot more fast paced, but then it's also doing like single leg, or, you know, not bilateral, I don't know what you call it.
Unilateral.
Unilateral movement. What was really cool was that, you know, I kind of taken that to where my typical plateau area was, and then diving back into a powerlifting program like this one, which was actually super diverse relative to the one I'd initially done. I was able to take it a lot further, and I think the reason is because, you know, the plateau points that I've experienced over the past 10 years were just due to, I got to a point where I didn't have the stability to really, you know, maybe I have, you know, strong quads, but I don't have the core strength to hold myself in the position to output that force, or, you know, I don't know what it is, but I was able to push it a lot further this time.
Would you say that you are more like physically well-rounded?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, so there's like the core strength component. I don't know that I ever really saw you train core,
No.
except for like maybe some crunches,
Yeah.
but not core in the sense of like anterior stabilization of your
Yeah.
trunk, things like that, rotation, anti-rotation.
Yeah.
And then also don't know that you ever did any like dedicated like glute and hamstring work.
Yeah.
If all you're ever doing is like a conventional deadlift, that's very much still like a lot of quad activation. So yeah, you're probably just your body's more balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. Long-winded way to say, yeah, I was a little different.
But different in a good way.
Yeah,
Different in a way that I think you were surprised by how far you were able to take your strength and your lifts this time around.
Yeah.
Especially now being like 12 years older than you were before.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like traditionally we think of like, oh, our 20s is like our prime time for being physically fit, and that was just absolutely not the case.
Yeah. I mean, just for a small reference point, like my highest lifts in this, meet 12 years ago, in the preparation for this meet, I was doing higher weights than that for sets of 3 to 5 going into this, and so I was like, wow, we've really pushed it a lot further.
Yeah, that was a little confusing the way you said that.
Okay, all right.
Bottom line is, the most you ever lifted before was sort of like
Now just like a regular
part of your just regular training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we talked about training, how that was different, our experience during that. I guess we can touch briefly on like the meet itself. I don't know if there's like a whole lot to talk about there, but
I mean, it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
So
do you want to dive in, or do you want me to? Do you have any specific thoughts or questions, or?
I mean, I think the cool thing about it is like powerlifting seems to be, on its face, kind of intimidating in that, if you look it up on YouTube, it's pretty extreme. You're gonna see the most extreme thing of anything when you type it in on the internet. But everyone when they're lifting weights is very serious and all that. But the cool thing is everyone's there to do the same thing. And so, Lindsay and I go in, we don't know anybody, but you can just walk up to anybody, and you have to, end up warming up with people you don't know and hopping into, the rotation. Someone might be way stronger than you, or, look kind of wild, but everyone's
kind of wild.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. Like, there was a guy who was like 5 foot nothing, but he was like 200 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I thought was the coolest was there were people from all age groups, actually. There were girls probably under the age of 10, and there was that one woman who she was probably in her 40s, and then there were a couple guys probably the one guy was definitely in his 60s, and it was his first powerlifting meet, which is very cool. And then there were people there were a couple of teenagers. I mean, it ran the gamut of age groups, and everybody had their family and friends there to support them, which was super cool. And it was just a very supportive environment. It's something that you are doing, and yes, you're technically competing, but really it's you against yourself. I think at the end of the day, at least that's how I went into it. Obviously, I wasn't trying to compete against anybody.
I mean, there are all different strength levels there.
Yeah, exactly.
The main theme is everyone's trying to do their best.
Exactly. So. Yeah, and nobody can knock anyone for that.
Yeah.
So that was very cool as part of the experience as a whole. I guess for the meet itself, there's not a ton to go over. Eric talked about what it is, and that's really it. They divide you, so you are divided up based on your weight class, so you are competing against people who are of similar size to you. I guess they do divide it up based on sex as well, right? So it's men versus women. And then everybody, I don't think we need to get into the whole shebang about the format of the thing, but yeah, they'll start, everyone does their squat first. You get your first squat attempt, they go through everybody. Then you get to go to your second attempt, they go through everybody. And then you get to do your third attempt. So it is a little bit strategic in terms of making sure that you stay warm. You get an opportunity to warm up, and as Eric alluded to, it's kind of a free-for-all, at least at this particular meet, and I'm assuming most meets are pretty similar.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have enough of equipment for everybody. There's probably 30 people that are competing.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't have 30 barbells, right? So you have to approach people, ask if you can warm up with them, share a bar.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you have to kind of strategize how to stay warm while you're waiting in between each opportunity to attempt your lift. Yeah.
How did it feel going up on the platform?
It's very scary. And it's crazy because, I mean, it was at a local gym in San Diego, so it's not like it's, I mean, when you did your first one, that was at like a big convention center, which is kind of crazy. This was just at like a local gym, so it was very like intimate, which I liked.
Yeah.
But also then literally people, the audience is like there, like they're right there, right, like they can touch you. So yeah, like they can see the sweat dripping down your face, they can see your expression, but yeah, I mean, you kind of just get up there and you psych yourself up. I did appreciate that they had very good music and that they had music going the whole time. That was nice. It would have been really weird if like they shut the music off and it's all like quiet.
Yeah, it wasn't like that.
No, I was expecting that a little bit though. Yeah. Any other thoughts on like the day of?
I mean, it was just a really cool experience.
Yeah, how was it this time for you as opposed to the first time you did it?
I mean, it was very similar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, how did you feel about it though?
I think about the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, there's a couple of different things driving the anxiety of being there. One is you're putting yourself out there publicly.
Yeah.
And the other one is wanting to do well, your internal motivation. And that's kind of, I guess, more where my head was at on both of them. And so it's kind of like, the tunnel vision. Like, I couldn't tell you what it looked like being on the platform. I just walked out and did it, and then
you kind of black out for like that.
I kind of came to
moment
afterwards.
Yeah.
So.
I think for me, it was definitely like a fear of, oh my God, I am a fitness coach by profession, and this is a physical fitness test essentially, or competition. And so like obviously like wanting to do well and perform well is there's that pressure of that. And then I think kind of like equally for me, and especially like throughout the whole process, was just making sure that I was safe and I approached things safely, and I didn't do anything that would put me in a position of, hurting myself or injuring myself. I didn't know like how my body was going to be able to, I didn't know how much I was going to be able to push, because I had not pushed, never with this concentration, but also just like since the whole having like my back being pissed off, I hadn't done any sort of training like this, where I really was trying to lift heavy. And so that was pleasantly surprising that I didn't hurt myself.
Yeah.
So that's a win.
Did great.
Yeah. Let's see. Any final thoughts or reflections? If someone were interested in a powerlifting meet, what is like your one piece of advice? Because we're experts now. What would be your one piece of advice?
I mean, I would say if you're interested, do it. Because
you stole my advice. advice.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
I'll come up with a different advice.
Okay.
So that's your advice.
Yeah, I would just say like don't let don't let the external fear or anxiety hold you back, because it's not as intimidating. Like from an interpersonal standpoint, it's not intimidating like that, and it's just really cool to push yourself in a certain way, and then maybe you don't make all your I didn't make all my lifts, but but there were some serious highs in there of being like, wow, I set this goal, I hit it, and I mean also just having like this is the time is kind of that. I mean that also is kind of a crazy high too. Like my last deadlift, any other time probably wouldn't have pulled it up, but I was like, there's no way I'm gonna put this down right now. So.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know what they call that, like maybe the superhero effect, where it's like you're called to do something in that moment, and it's like you have like superhero strength or superhero feelings that I feel like there's like a psychological component that like if you were in the garage, you may not have pulled that off, but because you were in that moment, you were in that headspace, all eyes were on you, it's just like, all right, it's go time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have advice?
My advice would be, one, follow a plan. Find a plan, follow a plan. It was really nice not having to worry about the plan or the programming, because programming for powerlifting is not something I do.
Yeah.
I don't specialize in that, and it's very different.
Yeah, it's super different.
So that was really nice, not having to worry about that. And I guess kind of similar to yours, but maybe like a little more specific. Just like if you do have some sort of like hesitation based around like an injury or a physical fear, I guess, or limitation, don't let that hold you back. There are ways you can approach it, as long as you approach it like smartly and strategically. You can do it. You can do it safely. It's not, I think people look at it and like you said, it looks very intimidating, like, oh my God, you're gonna throw your back out. And it's like, no, most people aren't like lifting that kind of weight.
Yeah.
And B, it's like, if you do it right and you do it and you build up, then you have built up that capacity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if you do miss, there's like 5 people there who are gonna grab that bar and take that weight off of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I know that's not what you're talking about, but
No,
another...
that's the safety component for sure. And you can always have a meet date in mind, and if you change your mind and you want more time, like we did, you can always kick the can down the road as long as you haven't committed anything financially. I would just say if you're slightly curious, do it. It's a fun opportunity to really just focus on your strength and, again, how far you can take something.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right.
Are we doing it again?
I'm doing it again. Are you doing it?
I'm not going to let you do it again without me.
All right.
All right. Until next time.